Good or bad, who can say? Once again he offered no judgment, no elation, no complaint. Just those same 6 words like a mantra carved by time. The neighbors didn't understand. To them life was black or white, win or lose. But the farmer had seen too much to be fooled by appearances. He knew, what we call good today may bring hardship tomorrow. And what we call bad might be the doorway to something we never imagined. So he didn't ride the emotional roller coaster of events. He stayed rooted, like an old tree that doesn't panic in a storm or dance at every breeze. It's not that he didn't feel. It's that he had learned, feeling everything doesn't mean believing everything. Because life is not a series of random moments. It's a long story. And sometimes the most painful chapter becomes the one that saves you. So he stood there, steady and still, whispering again, good or bad, who can say? And in that quiet strength was the wisdom of a lifetime. Stoic lesson: do not rush to judge events through the lens of fleeting emotions. The story of the farmer isn't just a tale, it's a mirror, a reflection of how we often live, reacting, labeling, assuming. Something happens and we rush to call it good or bad based entirely on how it feels in the moment. But Stoicism teaches us to pause, to create space between what happens and how we respond. Because feelings, though real, are not always reliable. They rise like waves and crash just as quickly. Decisions made in the storm of emotion rarely lead to peace. The farmer's calm wasn't indifference. It was wisdom. He didn't suppress emotion, he simply didn't obey it. He chose clarity over chaos, patience over panic. The Stoic doesn't deny the pain of loss or the joy of gain, but they hold both loosely, knowing that time reveals deeper truths than emotion ever could. So when life surprises you, breathe, step back, look deeper. Because wisdom isn't about avoiding emotion. It's about not letting emotion define the story too soon. Every event is neutral. It is our perception that makes it good or bad. This is at the heart of Stoic wisdom. Life doesn't come with built-in meaning. Events happen. Things change. People come and go. But none of it carries judgment until we assign it one. The farmer didn't see the horse's escape as a tragedy, nor its return as a miracle. He saw both as part of a larger unfolding, a story not yet complete. While others were busy celebrating or mourning, he remained steady, rooted in something deeper than circumstance. Because he knew, the world doesn't shape our experience, our interpretation does. We suffer not because of what happens, but because of how we think about what happens. Call it loss and you'll feel grief. Call it growth and you'll feel strength. The event is the same. Only the lens has changed. This is the power of perception. You are not a prisoner of external events. You are the author of their meaning. And when you realize that, you begin to take back control not just of your story but of your peace. Once upon a time, a farmer had a horse, strong and noble. One day the horse ran away into the wild. The neighbors came rushing to his home, eyes wide with pity. "What terrible luck," they exclaimed. But the farmer, calm as ever, simply replied, "Good or bad, who can say?" The villagers were baffled. How could he not see this as a misfortune? But the farmer knew something they didn't. Life doesn't come with labels. Time would tell. A week later, the horse returned, bringing with it a herd of wild stallions. The neighbors couldn't believe their eyes. "What incredible luck," they cheered. But again the farmer remained steady. "Good or bad, who can say?" They marveled at the gift, yet the farmer understood that fortune and misfortune were not fixed states. They were perceptions, momentary judgments we assigned to fleeting events. Life was a flow, a story unfolding, and no chapter could be fully understood in the moment. Soon after, the farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild stallions. He was thrown from its back and broke his leg. The villagers came again saying, "What a tragedy." But the farmer, unshaken, repeated, "Good or bad, who can say?" Weeks passed and war broke out. All the young men of the village were drafted into service, except for the farmer's son, whose injury kept him home. The neighbors, now seeing the full picture, realized that what had appeared to be a loss had actually been a blessing in disguise. The farmer's lesson was clear. Events themselves are neutral. What matters is how we choose to perceive them. Emotions come and go, but wisdom remains in the stillness between the waves. Life's meaning is not found in the surface of things but in how we view them. "Good or bad, who can say?" he said once more, not as a refrain but as a truth that guided him. And in that quiet wisdom, the farmer had mastered the art of living, seeing not events as blessings or curses, but as opportunities to grow, learn, and remain at peace. Once upon a time, a farmer had a horse, strong and noble. One day the horse ran away into the wild. The neighbors came rushing to his home, eyes wide with pity. "What terrible luck!" they exclaimed. But the farmer, calm as ever, simply replied, "Good or bad, who can say?" The villagers were baffled. How could he not see this as a misfortune? But the farmer knew something they didn't. Life doesn't come with labels. Time would tell. A week later, the horse returned, bringing with it a herd of wild stallions. The neighbors couldn't believe their eyes. "What incredible luck!" they cheered. But again the farmer remained steady. "Good or bad, who can say?" They marveled at the gift, yet the farmer understood that fortune and misfortune were not fixed states. They were perceptions, momentary judgments we assigned to fleeting events. Life was a flow, a story unfolding, and no chapter could be fully understood in the moment. Soon after, the farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild stallions. He was thrown from its back and broke his leg. The villagers came again saying, "What a tragedy!" But the farmer, unshaken, repeated, "Good or bad, who can say?" Weeks passed and war broke out. All the young men of the village were drafted into service, except for the farmer's son, whose injury kept him home. The neighbors, now seeing the full picture, realized that what had appeared to be a loss had actually been a blessing in disguise. The farmer's lesson was clear. Events themselves are neutral. What matters is how we choose to perceive them. Emotions come and go, but wisdom remains in the stillness between the waves. Life's meaning is not found in the surface of things but in how we view them. "Good or bad, who can say?" he said once more, not as a refrain but as a truth that guided him. And in that quiet wisdom, the farmer had mastered the art of living, seeing not events as blessings or curses, but as opportunities to grow, learn, and remain at peace. If you find value in these lessons and want to continue your journey to live a more peaceful, empowered, and mindful life every day, subscribe. There are many more stories and profound philosophies waiting to be discovered. In this video we will learn how to look at life through a new lens, without being quick to judge, to find peace and wisdom in every situation. If you want to discover more valuable lessons from Stoic philosophy, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to develop yourself every day. A farmer once had a magnificent horse, strong, swift, and the envy of the entire village. One day the horse broke free and ran off into the wild. The neighbors came and said, "What terrible luck!" But the farmer simply replied, "Maybe so, maybe not. We'll see." A week later the horse returned, this time bringing with it 3 wild stallions. The villagers shouted, "What great fortune!" Again the farmer said, "Maybe so, maybe not. We'll see." Soon after, his son tried to tame one of the stallions. He was thrown off and broke his leg. Everyone whispered, "Such misfortune." But the farmer stayed calm, "Maybe so, maybe not. We'll see." Months later war broke out. Every able young man was drafted, except the farmer's son, who was spared because of his injury. This story isn't about luck. It's about perspective. Life will twist and turn. Events will come dressed as blessings or curses, but their true meaning unfolds with time. The wise do not rush to judge. They choose patience over panic, peace over drama. Because they understand. What seems like a curse today may be the very thing that saves you tomorrow. One day the horse ran away. Just like that, gone. No warning, no trace. The farmer woke up to an empty stable and the heavy silence of loss. The villagers came rushing in, eyes wide, voices full of pity. "What terrible misfortune," they said. But the farmer stood quietly, gaze fixed on the hills. "Maybe so, maybe not," he answered. "We'll see." He didn't cry out. He didn't curse the sky. He didn't label the moment as good or bad, because he knew. Life unfolds in chapters and some pages need time to reveal their meaning. We often rush to conclusions. Something goes wrong and we say it's failure. Something leaves us and we call it loss. But maybe, just maybe, it's life rearranging itself for us, not against us. The farmer didn't resist the unknown. He trusted it. Because sometimes what runs away today returns tomorrow, bringing something even greater. Let the story unfold. Not everything that breaks your heart is a tragedy. Sometimes, it's the beginning of your greatest transformation. The neighbors came, shaking their heads, full of concern. "This is terrible," they said. "Such bad luck." But the farmer didn't flinch. He didn't absorb their fear. He simply looked at the horizon and said, "Maybe so, maybe not. We'll see." They didn't understand. To them, every event had to be labeled, good or bad, success or failure. But the farmer lived differently. He didn't see life as a series of wins and losses. He saw it as a flow, a larger rhythm that couldn't be judged by a single note. You see, people love to assign meaning to things they barely understand. They rush to react, to panic, to gossip. But wisdom is quiet. Wisdom watches. It waits. The farmer didn't argue with reality. He didn't fight the moment. Because he knew, what seems like a setback today might be the setup for something extraordinary. And those who panic in the first chapter often miss the beauty of the ending. Hold your judgment. The story isn't over yet. The farmer stood calmly, hands folded, eyes steady. He listened to their worries, their judgments, their need to define the moment. Then with a quiet voice he replied, "Good or bad, who can say? No anger. No resistance. Just presence." To the neighbors his words made no sense. How could he not see this as misfortune? But the farmer had lived long enough to understand something they hadn't. Life doesn't come with labels. Not real ones. What feels like a loss might lead to something better. What seems like a gift might carry a hidden cost. You never truly know, not in the moment. So he didn't waste his energy clinging to answers he didn't have. He let the moment be. That's not passivity. That's power. Because while others are trapped in fear, trying to control what they can't predict, the wise remain still. Not because they don't care, but because they trust. Trust the unfolding. Trust the unknown. The farmer did not need certainty to stand strong. He simply knew. Time reveals all things. The next day, to everyone's surprise, the horse came back. But it wasn't alone. Behind it trotted a wild herd, strong, untamed, magnificent. A gift no one could have predicted. The neighbors rushed over, eyes wide with amazement. "This is incredible," they shouted. "What great luck." But the farmer only smiled softly and said, "Good or bad, who can say?" He hadn't celebrated when the horse left. And now he didn't cling to joy because it returned. He knew, life swings like a pendulum. Down. Gain, loss. But the wise do not chase each swing. They stay grounded in the center. The very thing that seemed like misfortune had opened the door to abundance. And that's the truth about life. You never know what's coming next. A delay might be protection. A loss might be preparation. A detour might be the path. So don't rush to label moments. Don't curse the storm too soon, and don't crown the sunshine too early. Stand like the farmer, in stillness and trust. Because what feels random might just be grace in disguise. The neighbors came running, faces lit with excitement. "This is wonderful," they said. "What amazing luck. You must be so happy." But the farmer, as always, remained calm. He looked at the wild horses grazing nearby, then turned to them and said, "Good or bad, who can say?" They blinked in confusion. How could he not celebrate? Hadn't he just gained more than he lost? But the farmer understood what they didn't. The story was still unfolding. To him, fortune wasn't about what seemed good in the moment. It was about what endured. He knew that every gain comes with responsibility, every gift with a test. He wasn't afraid to receive, but he didn't cling to the highs either. Because he had seen it before, joy turning into sorrow and sorrow becoming a hidden blessing. The crowd celebrated the chapter. But the farmer waited for the book to finish. He chose steadiness over excitement. Wisdom over emotion. Because he knew. True peace doesn't come from what happens to you. It comes from how you relate to what happens. And in that he was already rich. The farmer simply smiled, his voice quiet, unwavering.